A New Year's resolution for every MLB team moving forward into 2024 and a sit down with Dodgers right-hander Walker Buehler. Welcome to episode 600 of the Just
Wow.
Baseball Show. I'm Peter Apple. That's Aram Layton. We got a loaded show, 600 episodes, Aram. You just dropped a thread on Twitter about all of the great things that we've been able to accomplish this year, and we wouldn't be here without the great people listening here to the Just Baseball Show. So we want to extend our thanks, our gratitude. You guys are the reason we get up and do this every day. It's amazing. But Arm, just go through it because, after the end of every year, it's good to just kind of see where we're at and keep it moving.
Yeah, so it's funny. It's like echoing everything you said, because I still a lot of times feel like I'm just speaking like just to you and then into the ether. Like I honestly forget sometimes that like there's people out there that are listening to some of the dumb shit that we say and mixed in with some decent stuff here and there. And then when you really dive into the numbers and contextualize it, like it sounds dumb. Like at times though, people will reach out and say, "Hey, really enjoyed this episode. I have a question on this." I'll be like, "Oh, thanks so much." And I answer it, but I still like just register that as like case by case. I don't realize that thousands of people are listening to each episode and whatever. And it's probably good that way. Otherwise, I'll start to freak out a little bit. But I did want to put out some numbers just on the year on Twitter, just because I wanted to show people how much they've helped us already. Like the amount of people that have have gone to me and said, "Hey, dude, like I share what you guys do with everybody," or like, "Oh, I was following Peter for his picks, and I told all my other buddies that they have to follow him," or "I shared this show with so many other people." And that's like the number one way for us to grow. Of course, virality and internet is crazy, but word of mouth is also really powerful. And I think that's been a huge part of it as well. Just so many of you listeners have, been kind enough to keep listening and also sharing. So a couple of the key numbers. First of all, the social views are absolutely absurd. That's all Peter. Up 40% in 2023, just shy of 100 million because TikTok is such a freaking wagon beast. But Instagram's been a big focus. We're really excited about, building that. I know that's been a fun challenge for you, Peter, and you've like already gotten that thing on another level. The pod network just being up 60% is just absurd to me. Like, we had the goal of hitting a certain amount of downloads. We didn't think that we'd, exceed 1 million downloads on the Just Baseball Show. And here we are in a calendar year and blowing past that. So that was really cool too. And now adding more shows to our network that we're really excited about to see that jump 60% was awesome. The website being up nearly 50%, almost 3 million page views in 2023, which was really, really cool. And then YouTube, we've talked about how that's a big initiative for us going into 2024. Well, even just in 2023, up 400%. It shows you that we're even focusing on that, and we can focus even further to 2 million views in 2023. So those numbers are absurd to me. They all sound fake. It doesn't even seem possible that we could, have that kind of audience. But at the same time, it feels like we're just starting, and it feels like we have so much more, ahead. So I can't thank people enough for making any of these numbers a reality. I mean, you and I remember talking about it when there was like 20, 30 listens. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that's almost a full classroom in my high school, which was a small high school. I was like, oh wow, that's a full room of people, and so it's really cool to see it continue to head in this direction, and it's extremely surreal. So we're all really grateful for the help and all of the support.
Incredibly grateful. And I think the reason I really wanted to share these numbers is because I don't view Just Baseball Media as you, Jack, and I, Ryan, Colby, the whole gang talking to listeners, right? And they're just on the outside looking in. From the beginning, the people who have been here from the beginning have been instrumental in creating ideas for us. You talk about it. There's people in your DMs all the time talking to you about prospects, people in mine talking about bets, about the show. This has been a collaborative effort with a lot of people since the beginning. So the reason we talk about the numbers is, again, to thank all of you who have been here from the beginning and all of the people who are maybe coming in late. We want to
Welcome.
build a community with you. That is
Yeah.
the main point of this. The reason we started Just Baseball was we thought that the big markets, right, that go unnamed right now, weren't covering the game in an
Yeah.
effective way. They weren't talking to the people who actually watch baseball. They weren't talking to Reds fans or Pirates fans or Royals fans. We do all the time. So we view our success as your success, and we're all growing together. So we don't read you the numbers as if, hey, look at us. Look at what we've been able to do. No, it's look at what
Well,
we've been able to do, including our audience. So and I know you feel the same way, as
yeah,
grateful as humanly possible. I don't have the words to be more than
yeah.
grateful, but it's at 150 million%.
Yeah, no, and the last thing I'll add, you hit the nail on the head is, I mean, there's a reason why our mailbag episodes are always like some of the best and most listened to is I think just knowing and trying to have our finger on the pulse of the audience, but also having an audience that's so willing and ready and able to reach out and share thoughts, share ideas, and just have great conversation. So that side of it has just been really cool. It's amazing. It's like kind of a like duh moment of hey, maybe you should just engage with your audience and you'll know what people want to hear. But I'm very grateful. We're all very grateful that our audience has been willing to engage with us and build that relationship. So, whether it's running into some people at the ballpark that have listened, which is always amazing, or, just conversations that, we have via social media or whatever it may be. It's a big reason, as you mentioned, why we are where we are. And then, of course, just having an incredible staff of studs and awesome people that continues to grow is another extremely exciting part of it that I could do a whole podcast on all of the people on our team that have just been awesome in 23 and I can't wait to see what we're going to do in 24. So thank you for an unbelievable year. It's the most fun I've ever had, doing anything work related, and I can't wait to do more of it in 24.
Can't wait to keep going. All right, before we get into a New Year's resolution for every MLB team, followed by a sit down with Walker Bueller, the Just Baseball Show is brought to you by BetMGM. Use promo code Just Baseball when you sign up and deposit into your newly created account. Download the BetMGM Sports app on iOS or Android, or visit betmgm.com. Place your first bet offer and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if it loses. And if the bet does lose, your bonus bets will be available once the wager is settled. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older, and terms and conditions apply. I have the American League. You have the National League. So basically what we did is one sentence to describe the resolution, then a couple sentences back and forth, and then we'll just keep moving from team to team because we got a loaded episode here. And a lot of it
Yeah,
is point blank. Like a lot of my resolutions is straight up calling them out. Kind of
I had a feeling.
my thing.
I had a feeling.
My resolutions are just yelling at you, which is good.
Yes.
I think that should be a resolution, right? So my resolutions: go to the gym more, stop being a fat ass, eat healthier, right? You got to yell at yourself a little bit on New Year's resolutions. You
Yep.
got to stop doing the dumb shit in 2023 to move forward and be a better team in 2024. And that's what we're here to do. Yell at your team.
100%. And also, I love doing these podcasts with you and really enjoy it and love hearing what you have to say. But I'm going to be honest, I would much rather hear Walker talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto now being on his team and Tyler Glass now and all of these exciting things than to hear you yell at the Orioles for the 45th time. So that's why we're going to go a little quick. I'm excited to hear. There's certain teams that I went through on your side where I'm like, oh, I'm interested to see what Peter is going to say here. But certain teams like the Orioles or like, I don't know, some other just bad teams. The Orioles are great, obviously, but frustrating for other reasons. I'm like, all right, let's fly through these, and we don't need to have a full back and forth. But there's going to be a few that I will interject and share some thoughts or echo your sentiment. But I am nervously ready for what you've got, so you can go first, King.
Rude, but extremely fair. All right, let's move on. It's good. We're being more honest here in 2024. We'll start with my New York Yankees.
Huh.
Channel George Steinbrenner and go on the attack. Here's what I mean. Juan Soto and Gleyber Torres are impending free agents. Garrett Cole is 33 and Aaron Judge is 31. DJ, LeMahieu, Anthony Rizzo, and Giancarlo Stanton are 34 or older. You had the bad Rodon and Nestor year already, right? Those were supposedly, hopefully, their worst years. Who knows how much they're going to improve, but I don't think they're going to be worse. And you already let Anthony Volpe get his feet wet. This should be the season where you push all the chips in, make the big trade, sign the big fish, be the New York Yankees. Works for you?
Dude. Yeah, works for me. Be the fucking Yankees. We just begged the Red Sox to be the Red Sox on our last episode. Same thing here.
Same thing here. So I'll do the American League East. You do the National League East, and we'll just keep flip flopping. So I'll go to the Red Sox. John Henry, stop worrying about Liverpool and invest in the Red Sox.
Yeah.
You all talked about it on the podcast yesterday, so this is going to be short. But from my point of view, it is so disappointing to see and hear how they are currently operating. You are the Red Sox, the third most valuable team in Major League Baseball. Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox. You finished last in 3 of 4 years. Since 2020, your team is 272 and 274. Don't you feel a little bit embarrassed? Your fans deserve better. And I like the point you made on the last show. Some of the best fans in sports. As much as I could go back and forth with them as a Yankee to Red Sox fan, it's fun because they're all smart. And you guys see what's going on here. Hold your owner accountable. Tell them to stop investing in soccer,
Yeah.
baseball. It's the Red Sox.
It's the Fenway
Fans,
Sports Group. It's not the Liverpool Sports Group. It's like,
the
I know
fan,
that they have to diversify the portfolio, but come on, it's the Fenway Sports Group. Like, let's go.
I couldn't agree with you more. Blue Jays, choose a lane and stick to it. Are you going to make the big signing or just kind of be in the race and not go over the top? Are you going to dive fully into analytics or are you just going to blame John Schneider when it doesn't go your way?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to add to the offense or are you just going to run back the same team that was about 14th in runs scored last year and hope for something new, even though you have years of evidence of this current team not getting to the next level? What are you going to do?
I mean, you're spot on. That's another team that makes me frustrated. I think signing, we talked about on the last episode, signing Jock, I think would actually be, a sign of like, hey, we're trying to lean in some more pop. We're trying to make a little bit of a difference here.
100%.
But going with another IKF adjacent move, I'm good. Like, watch, they're gonna go get like Michael A. Taylor too. They just want every defensive center fielder in the sport or something. Just start stockpiling those guys.
Like, I like Kevin Kiermaier, but like you signed
I
Kevin
do.
Kiermaier for 1 year, 10 million. Like that's your team. Like you
You have
already
Kiermaier at
saw
home.
what happened. You
Yeah.
have Kiermaier at home. I love that point. Orioles, build around the core now. And I wrote down now is NOW with exclamation points and in fully bolded. I even made the font size a little bit bigger. What else do you need to see from this core? You have the late 90s, early 2000s beginnings of the Yankees core four. Follow that mold. Add guys like Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, Scott Brocious, David Wells, David Cohn, right? Everybody remembers those late Yankees as Jeter, Posada, Mariano, Pettit, like those guys. But it was really like the Bernie Williams and all those guys that made those young guys better. You have to surround this uber talented young roster with established sound veterans. So when the lights are bright and they get to the playoffs against the Rangers, it doesn't have to be on 22-year-olds to perform.
Yeah. I mean, and it's one of those things that you hear it time and time again situationally. Oh, this player really took the lead and really helped a lot of the young guys. And, these guys are already getting some experience because they're so good so early. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where lock up those youngsters and start pushing the chips forward a little bit. We'll see what they do. But again, I've lost all hope that Mike Elias is ever going to be aggressive ever with anything.
We can hope. We can hope. Tampa Bay Rays, don't let the Wander thing change you. And this is a very difficult subject. I'm not going to go.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah.
Like, losing Wander after this huge contract to a team like the Rays is such a gut punch.
Mm-hmm.
Finally spent, and now likely you're going to have nothing to show for it. But stick to your guns, build from within, and don't be that team that says, look, big contracts don't work. We're never doing it again. Like, this was a one-off crazy thing that we see once every, 50 years. Don't let it change you. Don't be the team now who's like that, and then you're always going to be in the margins kind of moves. Because then you're never going to get to the pedestal. Like, you'll make the playoffs, you'll win a lot of regular season games, but it's just going to be All right.
It
Well,
is
we're getting
wild.
both. Yeah.
It is wild that the one time they shell out money, it ends up being, a situation here where we could have one of the more disgusting scandals in the history of sports in terms of some of the things that Wander was, accused of. And that's the craziest thing is the one time they spend. But I'm with you. Like, does a player like Wander come around very often? No. But does it need to be Wander for you to lock him up? No. There can be some really good. Junior Caminero might be, he's not going to be Wander Franco, I don't think, but
Eh?
he might be close enough. Lock that guy up.
Yeah.
And not the other kind of locked up that they're dealing with the other. I'm talking about like sign him to an extension. Yeah, I mean it just seems like a no brainer to pick your spots. You can't do it all the time. You're the Rays, but don't let this make you jaded. I think that's a great point.
National League East. What do you got?
Okay, so we'll start with the Braves, and the Braves. I'll keep it simple. And this was actually something that started with the Chris Sale trade, but leading with just find an edge. And I believe it was Dave O'Brien. Is that the gentleman that covers the Braves? I thought I saw him on Foul Territory. Is that the right name?
That
I
makes
want to
sense.
make sure I have that right. But whoever it was, I'm going to pull it up right now, that covers the Braves, was on Foul Territory talking about how he felt like Chris Sale could really make. Yeah, it was David O'Brien. Excuse me. So David O'Brien of the Athletic was saying how he felt like Chris Sale can kind of give the Braves that edge that they've been missing, and that edge meaning the difference in the playoffs right now, right? A team that doesn't just fold when they get punched in the mouth, a team that, responds to the adversity, doesn't just dominate the regular season. And then when they're down 2-zip, they get beat up by a team that kind of just seems like they want it more. And I always hated that cliche, but sometimes with the Braves, it's like, what are these guys doing? You're way too good. You can come back in any situation. So I think the fierceness and the competitiveness of Chris Sale hopefully can, be who kind of helps them find that edge. But for me, it was find an edge. You don't need much more talent.
I love that one. That is a great one because to your point about the cliche, like when Ron Acuna Jr. steps on the field and Matt Olson and these guys, it's not that they don't want it. Of course, every player on the field wants it, but then how do you explain the Phillies and these teams just continually outlasting them when everyone's picking the Braves to win because you're the best team? There has to be
There's
something
something
there.
missing.
And finding that edge, Chris Sale, it was more to the Braves than just if he throws 130 innings with 150 punch outs, like that's awesome. Maybe Anthopoulos is sensing this and is going to add a couple more of those guys. Like I would love
Yeah.
it because the Braves don't need any more talent, right? They
No,
need
they need
dogs.
a psychopath. They need a guy that's going to cut up the jerseys and shit. That's fine.
The on Baseball Savant, they're red in all the important categories except dog in them.
Yeah, pretty blue.
Pretty blue. You need some red and dog in them, and I think Chris Sale gave him that.
I love it. Mets, play the kids. Look, I think that they're going to head in a pretty good direction. I like the moves that they made at the end of last year. I think it's very clear what they're doing. I think Stearns is the right guy at the helm. But I don't need Starling Marte to continue to get at bats out there if it's not looking good. Even you could look at Jeff McNeil if he's not doing great. Maybe you start to look at the young guys like Luis Angel Acuna who could be up there at some point. You've got Drew Gilbert. It sucks that Ronnie Mauricio got hurt, but Brett Beatty, I don't care if he's struggling. What are you playing for this year? Let Brett Beatty keep going. I want to see more of Mark Vientos. Just let those guys play without I think being so tense and trying to survive, and keep their job while also developing. This is a development year, probably the only time the Mets are going to have that for maybe ever again, because Steve Cohen's never going to want to be in this position again. Play the kids, see what you got with some of these youngsters. There's so many pitchers that I want to see more of, Mike Vassell being one of them. Blade Tidwell is pretty darn good. I'm also missing a couple off the top of my head, but there's several arms that I'd love to see more of. And I just think that's a big part of it as well. Christian Scott, I'd love to see throw a little bit more too.
Instead of adding on to that point, because I think it's a great point, who's the one young Mets rookie second year guy who you think this year is the most pivotal? Maybe not the one that you're most excited to
Great
see,
question.
maybe not the best player of the bunch, but this year is the most fork in the road esque.
I think it's Beatty, man, because another year of struggles with Brett Beatty, and now you're like, is it going to happen here? And I think the world of him. I think he can be an all-star, multi-all-star at third base, and it's not like they've got a huge line in contingency at third base. It's a couple other guys that they'll experiment with there. Maybe Mauricio, we'll see. when he's healthy, but also with Mauricio being out for season, it's Beatty. And I think it's Beatty, a big gap in everybody else because Beatty's had a little bit more struggles under his belt.
100%. Because I think Francisco Alvarez,
He's
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 there.
good. He's set. Yeah, he's got it. He's got it for sure. Phillies start better. It's just that simple for me. The last couple years, they've overcome crappy starts, and it's amazing that they do that. But it seems like they almost run out of gas at the end of the postseason because they have to tax the hell out of their pitching. They got to get out of the wild card, or they got to finish hot down the stretch in September, really push balls to the wall, and then by the time they get to the NLCS or the World Series, it's like they have nothing left, or they're finally running out of gas. In as of May 31st, 2022, they were 8 games under 500. That's pretty quick to be 8 games under for a good baseball team. And then May 31st, 2023, this past season, 5 games under. Even if they hovered around 500 through those first couple months, it'd be a lot easier getting through the second half of the season and the final couple months when they really had to push to make it and end up, hosting a game there, or hosting 2 in the wild card series. So start better.
The Phillies kind of remind me of that one guy you played high school baseball with who was a Division I commit, elite player, but you're playing a Saturday game against a team that's 2-8, and they're throwing a guy who throws 74 miles an hour in high school, and he grounds out. He just doesn't have a good game because he's not locked in. But then you go down to the best conference, and you're facing a team full of D1 commits, and the guy goes 4 for 4 with 2 bombs. All he needed were the lights to turn on, and then he locks in. Like, don't let those May games against the Nationals
get away.
Get away. Like, beat the shit out of the bad teams and then show up for the great games, and you could be the best team in baseball. Because the Phillies, when the lights are on, can beat anybody. Anybody at any given time. But it's they keep going 88 and 74 or whatever because they're losing games that they just shouldn't be. Like, focus on those games.
Yep.
You could be unstoppable in the regular season, and then you get in the postseason at the bank, and we're having the same conversations where we're saying, I don't know who could beat the Phillies.
Yep.
Next up.
Marlins, learn how to draft. I think they will because I like who they have at the helm here in Bendix and just getting rid of DJ Savilic. But we just did playing GM for the Marlins in the last episode. I'm not saying the Marlins will be in a perfect spot right now, but if they didn't draft like shit for the last 5 years, they would probably be in a much better spot. I'm not saying it'd be perfect, but they definitely be in a much better spot. And it's not always, hindsight's 2020. You could always say, they could have picked a better player. No hindsight. I can pull up tweets, articles, podcasts, whatever it may be. Jacob Berry in 2022 punted that first round pick. Khalil Watson, I kind of get that one, but still, Berry, they could have got multiple shortstops that would be starting for them right now. And instead we have Vidal Brujan, playing at shortstop. JJ Bleday, Connor Scott. If they drafted anybody other than those guys, they're in a much better spot. I don't think it's a complete problem, but I do think you're seeing what happens when you don't have anything to show for 5-6 years of drafts, which, your farm system becomes incredibly thin. You try to compete at the big league level. You trade some prospects. Your farm system becomes more thin. You're already strapped for cash. And now you're stuck in this purgatory spot that the Marlins are in. Draft better. Things will get better. They, I think, have been one of the worst drafting teams in the sport over the last few years, and I don't think it's particularly close.
We've done 600 episodes together, and I should know that when you're about to start talking about the Marlins, I can't take a sip of water because I just spit out water onto my laptop when you said learn how to draft. So give them a pointer. How do you draft?
So you could take a quick gander at some of these things called like batted ball data. You could take a quick gander at some analytics. You could also just hire better scouts and
watch the game.
Watch, go to the game. Not just go to. I mean, they did they followed JJ Bleday around all the time, just until their confirmation bias could just be like hit home perfectly. Like they were literally on a tour watching JJ Bleday. They were out in Vandy. I remember. I think Jeter was out there. I'm like, what else do you need to see? Like, why are we going all the way in here on just JJ Bleday, watching him play every single day? Like, let's go see some other players. You never know what you might find. But they were dead set on that, and the rest is history.
Nationals?
Yeah. Let Steven Strasburg retire, please.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Look, I could have talked about the team. I think for them, it's really just about like letting the Corbin contract run out, playing the youngsters and that kind of thing. But there's other teams where I'm saying playing the youngsters and it applies. The Nationals are the only team that has this really weird, bizarre situation where, look, you're not going to save money on Strasburg retiring. It's not going to happen. His agent, Scott Boras, he's not going to fork over money that you agreed to pay him. It sucks that it's all guaranteed. That's how baseball works. It's unfortunate the way things shook out. Strasburg's going to have to go to fucking Florida and fail a physical and just be degraded as a man because you want to try to combat Boris about the money that's owed. Just let the man retire. That's my big thing. I think it's a cloud over what should be a turning of the page for the Nationals, which is one of those situations where they should be looking at the youngsters. They should be looking at CJ Abrams. They should be looking at some of these young guys coming up. And instead, it's like you have this hanging over you and you can't really turn the page.
Love it. They just can't.
That's it for the NL East.
That's it for the NL East. Let's move on to the American League Central. We'll start with the Guardians. And this was stolen from Kevin Henry, our new writer at justbaseball.com, a BBWAA member. He did a full New Year's resolution for every team, so it differs from Aram and I, but I really wanted to pick on this one because I think he's so right. And he said, a return to 2022 form for Andres Jimenez. Because I was trying to figure out, a good resolution for this team, but Bieber's coming back, McKenzie's coming back. Of course, the emergence of Tanner Bybee. You got Bo Naylor, obviously, who's the catcher of the future, and Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor and all these guys. But Andres Jimenez signed a 7-year, $106 million contract. This is the guy. They need him to be the third key hitter with Naylor and Jose Ramirez. Of course, Bo Naylor, I think whatever you get from him right now is great because he's still really young. You expect him to be good, but you need a core of these like relatively older veteran-esque because they're all still in their mid to late 20s. Like his OPS plus dropped 43 points last year. He was an MVP candidate to a below replacement level player or around that. Like that cannot happen for the Guardians. Like he is such a key cog. He can't be hitting 7th. Like this guy should be one of the key members of your team on a playoff team, not a below average hitting second baseman. That is not him. Needs to be back for the Guardians to really compete because you kind of know everybody else is going to do their thing.
And that they don't shell out $100 million very often. So, the one time that they do outside of J-Ram, like guys got to perform or else they're handcuffed. And that's a big part of it.
Tigers, go shock the world. Maybe I got just a weird feeling about the Tigers this year. I think they're going to shock some people. The Central is wide open, and you have the pieces to be the team. They have a lot of interesting young pitchers, right? From Manning to Skubal to Reese Olson to Faedo to Mize. I don't know if all of them are going to pitch this year, but there's so many guys where you can just see a light at the end of the tunnel. On offense, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, and they're adding guys like Mark Canha and Kenta Maeda. Like you're starting to see a form of a team that's really interesting and nobody's paying attention to them. Go get Isaac Paredes and go shock the world. There's something about these Tigers. I like them.
Yeah. I look, it's happening in terms of you can see the direction, you can see what they're doing. I'm interested to see how they want to strike because the system is pretty good. They might feel like that division's open, like we've talked about. And Jackson Jobe is arguably my favorite pitching prospect in baseball, and I think he could make an impact as soon as next year. So, I mean, it's starting to come together, and it might be the perfect time for it to all come together, in that Central division.
Like I know they only won 78 and 84 last year, but they did finish second in the division. Like, I think we all kind of in our brains just assume that they were third, fourth. Like, they finished second. They have the same record as the Red Sox. And which team do you think is in better position to win this year, the Red Sox or the Tigers?
The Tigers might be in better position. Yeah. And the other funny thing is, my king, Miguel Cabrera, who I will never, say a negative thing about, but, with no knees left and 40 years old, they were leaving him in the lineup because of course you do, right? It was Miggy's farewell tour, but now you replace that DH spot with someone that can actually still hit a decent clip. You also have that money that's going to be more available now to spend in different spots, and yeah, you're getting younger, and I think that part of it is kind of what they were trying to get to, and I'm excited to see what it looks like.
The White Sox will be quick. Do your fans a long-term favor. Start from zero. This team needs a real rebuild, not a fake rebuild. Trade everyone not named Luis Robert. Come up with a plan to do this and completely reset everything.
Yep, yep. And I think they're doing it. I think they're
I
finally
agree.
doing it. We'll see,
But I'm
but I think
saying
they're going to do it.
do it, because I'm hearing
Mhm.
now the price tag for Cease, like no team is going to match it, and then they're just going to keep him, and they're not
No,
going to
yeah,
trade
no one
Eloy.
met
They're
our
not
price.
they're
Yeah,
just going to keep doing that. It's at some point, guys, do it.
yeah,
You're not going to get a Juan Soto-esque deal for Dylan Cease. I'm just sorry, you're not going to.
you're not going to. No,
All right,
yeah,
Royals. This is a big year to find out truly who your core is. You have the beginnings. You got a lot of guys who are maybes, probablys, eh. This is the year where you find it. I think Bobby Witt Jr. right now is the only no-brainer. The probablys are Cole Reagans and Vinny Pasquantino. The maybes, though, like, is MJ Melendez a part of this future? Michael
this year,
Massey?
this year you'll
Michael
find
Garcia?
out.
Yeah, this is the year to find out. Michael Garcia? Big year for Brady Singer, right? All of these guys are 27 or younger. So I think this is a pivotal year. Are you going to be a part of the core or are you not? Because there are some good players in here. And I'm thinking some of them will be and some of them may not be. And with just inconsistencies with some of them, like Vinny P, I love his talent, but he's got to stay healthy, right?
Yep.
Like if he's just a guy who gives you 70 games a year of elite production, like we have plenty of those guys in Major League Baseball. They're not
Yeah.
super core members. I think he's going to stay healthy, but you never know. So
Yeah.
big year for the core in Kansas City.
And I mean, going to sign these vets too, it shows like, hey, there's a little bit more urgency now too. So like, this is the year where if you're not a part of the future, they'll probably move you and start to really consolidate and lock in on the pieces that are going to help them win by 25 and 26.
The Twins is a tough one. I wrote
Mhm.
down, take a page out of the Rays book. Be the best at being surgical. If you have to cut costs, focus on the between the margins moves, right? Become the masters of making under the radar acquisitions. You have strong big name pieces in place, right? You got your Pablo Lopez, you got your Byron Buxton, you got your Carlos Correa, you got your Royce Lewis, your Edward Julien. Make those sneaky moves that, we cover at the end of the show and we don't give you a ton of credit. And then at the end of the year, we think to ourselves, what a great move. Be that team.
Mhm.
Be the masters of the moves that not a lot of people talk about until after the fact and pretend that they were with you from the beginning. Be that team.
They've got assets. I mean, they got a
Yeah, they
lot of
do.
assets. So I'm interested to see. I think they do need to be more active though, and be more creative. And I do think they will be now too. I think there's a couple teams on this other side of the new year here that are going to be pretty active.
National League Central.
Yep. So we'll start with the Milwaukee Brewers. Pretty simple. Just retain your good players. Look, I know that the Brewers can't fork $1 billion like the Dodgers do and have and can. But they can fork over more money than they are and are showing to be willing to. And they have a lot of affordable pieces already locked in, right? The whole outfield is controllable and cheap. You just extended Chorio. You're going to have him for almost a decade now. You have Freddie Peralta on one of the most affordable deals out there. Okay, maybe you can't keep Corbin Burns. Why let Adames walk? You don't have like a slam dunk shortstop waiting in the wings. Like, why not extend Adames? That's a guy that you can reasonably afford. When it comes to Burns, I think they could still try. I know that the relationship isn't great, but there's a reason why it's not great. They've been nickel and diming him, in arbitration and all of that good stuff. Retain your good players. You paid Yelich. Yes, it didn't work out as perfectly as you might have hoped. He's still playing good baseball now, though, in the latter parts of this deal. And at the end of the day, you look at these contracts that are going out, it's still pretty good value if he gives you what he gave you last year. I would love to see the Brewers operate a little bit more aggressively when you have these good players and you already have so many young controllable pieces for the foreseeable future there. Especially, you didn't even mention William Contreras behind the dish. Like, they've got some good pieces. Just spend a tad, or at least retain a tad.
You know how they can mend the relationship with Corbin Burns? Money, right?
Yeah,
If they just offered him a big time deal, you think Corbin Burns is going to be that bad anymore?
no. Go short term, high AAV. See what happens. Give it a shot. Just try. If he says no when he walks, he says no when he walks. But the Dodgers are probably out of the sweepstakes. Oh, you never know. But
yeah, actually, no, that they're the front runners now.
yes, probably. Yeah, we need to learn from this now. Like I said,
they're
I
not
talked
out
about
of
it with Jack. Like we got to stop. Just we got to assume that everyone's going to the Dodgers. But yes, do something. Actually, that's coming up in a second. The Reds, keep your pedal to the floor. It's kind of similar to the Royals situation. Obviously, they're a little further along. I think even with the Tigers you're talking about, like kind of shocked the world. The Reds have already made their presence known. They did it last year, right? They shocked the world last year. But in terms of just no one expecting them to do anything near that. But now it's time to get serious, right? You've got your young pieces. Are all of them going to repeat what they did last year? Probably not. But they're good players and you're going to be fine. And now you go out and get some arms. I loved, being able to add the upside of Montes. Nick Martinez was a good ad. They've just been able to already spend and pick up some good pieces. Don't stop. You don't need 18 middle infield prospects. Go trade a couple. Go try to make a move. Go get an arm. The trade market's been super quiet. I'm sure it's super steep, especially in the Cease world. Get creative. Go get an arm from the Marlins or somebody else. Like I want to see them keep pushing here because similar to what we talked about, with the AL Central, I think the NL Central, could be relatively open as well because the Cubs, who I'll get to in a second, aren't doing anything. Do you have anything before I segue right into the Cubs?
Nope. Go ahead. I think it's perfect.
Do something. Do something. I know Cubs fans are losing their minds. The only reason, I think it's a little bit more so than any other team, because we've said do something for several teams. The Cubs again, one, the Cubs. Two, they've been making it out to be as if they're going to be big spenders, right? We're in on Ohtani. We're interested in this guy. We're interested in that guy. And they haven't done a thing. They haven't signed anybody. I think they've been the least active team in the entire sport. Why? You were also pretty good last year. You also are very close to being competitive. And I'm by competitive, I mean compete for a pennant. They're already competitive as a baseball team. You have an unbelievable farm system. You don't have that much money tied up. What are we doing here? It seems like analysis paralysis here with Hoyer and the Cubs. We've seen Hoyer operate really well within constraints. Are you afraid to pull the trigger now and be aggressive? I can't have another Mike Elias in this sport.
You could at least,
and I love Mike Elias.
You could at least run it back with Stroman, right? Because if you lose Stroman, you are worse. It's not the same team that is not doing anything and stays the same. No, you're worse now than
he was begging
the playoffs.
He was begging to come back. And Bellinger too. Bellinger wasn't begging as much, but I know he wants to come back. I know his price tag's a little ridiculous, so I understand the Cubs waiting that one out. But if you're letting both those guys walk, what are you going to do to offset that? We're talking about getting better in 24. You're going to be focused on offsetting losses? That's not a good recipe for success when the other teams in the division are all getting better. Besides the Brewers.
At all. Go ahead.
Cardinals. More pitching. More. I want to see the Cardinals have too much pitching.
Yep.
Please. And just humor me. Have too much. I can't wait for that day. And it won't happen. So just try. We talked about what they say they're going to get 2.5 pitchers.
Get 5.5.
They were going to add 2.5 or something like that. They got half and half basically, or a quarter and a quarter with Gibson, in Lance Lynn. But
hey, Gibson, we got to stop disrespecting Kyle Gibson on this show. I actually think Kyle Gibson is perfectly fine. He's going to give you a 4.6 ERA in 190 innings.
Okay.
That's
I hear that.
That's a pitcher.
It is a pitcher. I
want you to say that Kyle Gibson is a full point of a pitcher.
He's okay. I'll give him a full pitcher. He's a full pitcher.
He's a full pitcher.
Okay, but in a playoff series right now, Sonny Gray gets the ball game 1. Game 2?
Michaelis.
That's fantastic. Game 3?
Kyle Gibson.
See ya.
Yeah, I mean,
enjoy Cancun.
Yeah.
Just get another arm, please. That's all I got. And then
Snell.
Anyone, please. Please, you're the Cardinals. I'm going to keep saying that with all of these major teams. The Pirates, stay healthy. I can see the direction. I like where they're going. it sucks Andy Rodriguez, out for the year with the torn UCL. One of my favorite prospects, for a long time. Henry Davis has battled some injury issues. Now he's going back behind the plate. We didn't get to see any of O'Neal Cruz, it felt like last year because of injuries, and he continues to get hurt. It just seems like they've been a pretty banged up team. Mike Burrows, young arm that I was really excited to see, he gets hurt. Injuries happen everywhere, but it seemed like with the young integral pieces here with the Pirates, it's happened a little bit more. So I just love to see them stay healthy.
Can agree with you more. Great stuff. Moving on to the American League West, the Astros. Pick your side in the fork in the road. And what I mean by that is the current Astros, they're not much of a farm system. Where would you rate their farm system among 30 MLB teams?
It's definitely in the bottom third. They seem to translate one or two guys though all the time, which makes it fine. But yeah, it's a bottom third team in terms of assets.
And their payroll projected in 2024 is about 224 million. That's right around the CBT threshold. Are you going to go over that, keep spending, sign more guys, or is it time to trade Framber and Bregman? And the reason I'm saying that is I think staying pat and not choosing one of those lanes could end up burning you in the future. And I think
Mm-hmm.
what the Astros have done really well is being very self-aware and
Mm-hmm.
knowing where they're at all times. Now is another opportunity to show Major League Baseball that you have a great pulse on your own team. And I know it's January, so they still got time, but I think you got to make that decision sooner rather than later than kind of letting pieces go. Because if you trade Bregman and Framber now, you're going to get a haul of prospects and you still have a great team. If you then go out and sign more guys and say, all right, we're not going to have a great farm system, but to your point, we're going to turn around one or two guys a year and go beat the Rangers like they can go win another World Series. Of course they can. They're the Astros. Regardless of what they do, I think they're going to be in a good spot either way. But I think if they do nothing, they'll actually be in a worse spot than choosing one of those lanes. So I think pick a side and do it because I think you'll be okay either way. Don't
I,
stand
I'm
pat.
I'm with you. I think that they could get stuck, and they're never a team that's going to go over the CBT. So you have to kind of work a little bit further ahead than some of the other teams, and they've done that, and that's why they've been so good for so long, like you said.
But I know they haven't, like it's not in their, DNA to do it, but they realistically could do it. How much
Yes,
money
they
has
could.
this team made from continually being in the
Oh,
playoffs? They could, you should extend Altuve tomorrow. That's what, you know, that's what they should do. All right.
yeah.
Rangers is very similar to the Reds, except these two teams are in different positions. I put keep your foot on the pedal. The
Oh, no
AL's,
way.
yeah, literally word for word. The AL is still open. Remind baseball Texas Rangers that this was not a fluke. Go get more bullpen. I see no reason why they shouldn't re-sign Jordan Montgomery. These windows don't happen often, and yours is still wide open. The
Mhm.
offense is fully taken care of. You're going to get Wyatt Langford in. Evan Carter is the guy. Seager, Semyon, Lowe, Adolis, Josh Young, Jonah Heim. You do not need to touch it. Spend $100 on Jordan Montgomery and get under the radar bullpen moves, and you could run it back easily.
Mhm. I
Your foot on the
agree
pedal.
100%.
Keep your foot on the pedal. Angels, the opposite of the Houston Astros, have some self awareness. Trade Mike Trout. Realize what your organization has become. You clearly do not know how to sign free agents. Realize you are a broken franchise and fix it. Instead of pretending you're active and then you just kind of overpay a reliever, like you give him a 3-year deal for whatever reason, just to prove Artie Moreno that I have money. We're still the Angels. Have some self awareness. You're
Yeah.
not that guy.
Start over.
Start over. Mariners, do not trade any big leaguer with value. Stop
Mm.
it. I don't want to hear Brian Wu and Bryce Miller deals anymore. I don't want to hear that they're on the market. No more of these Paul Sewald-esque deals
Mhm.
where Jerry Dipoto feels so smart. I just turned a reliever into 3 position players, and then those 3 position players don't really do anything for you. When Paul Sewald is on the mound in the World Series. Like, stop making these I'm smarter than you deals. Why is it Eugenio Suarez gone?
Yeah.
Like, stop doing that. Add
It,
You can go to the World Series. You have all the pitching in the world. You have all the bullpen guys. You have Julio Rodriguez, who could be a 40-40 guy. You got France coming back. Like, you could be one of the best teams in baseball, but you're trying to be so smart and cool. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop being cute.
The
Just
last thing I'll
add
say,
good players.
the one thing I'll say is the best move. He's made some good moves. The best move that he's made is the classic aggressive move that we see from winning aggressive teams, which was trading for Luis Castillo, right? Like that
That
was
was great.
a massive haul. Who cares? You look at it now, Williamson's barely a five at best, probably at this point. Yeah, Edwin Arroyo's fine. He still hasn't even reached double A. Noelvi Marte, he's kind of the odd man out in that infield for the Reds. He's really good. He probably could play third for the Mariners next year. Okay, you got to give to get. You have an ace. You got an ace from that. Like sometimes the aggressive regular move is good, and I'm with you. Like that's the best move that he has made is that Luis Castillo trade.
Last, kind of least, A's. Make this year about the fans. And it's not least because you owe it to them. Do you want any Oakland fans supporting you when you move to Vegas, John Fisher?
He doesn't give a shit.
Make this year a year in which the fans are the 100% focus. Fan giveaways, stuff at the ballpark, whatever. Just show Oakland fans that you are sorry and that you appreciate them. I don't know if you've seen this offseason, a lot of players who have been in the league for a long time have been talking about how bad they feel for Oakland fans because they keep pointing to the fact that when Oakland was good, it was one of the rowdiest, best environments to play in. Like, I grew up in Santa Barbara, California. I've been to the Coliseum when the A's are good. They're 100% correct. Those fans, when there's even a semblance of talent, are out there supporting. Even when there isn't, there are still some. But they just got to a point this season and kind of last season where it's like, John Fisher, not only are you a bad owner, like you kind of feel like a bad person.
Yeah, he kind of sucks.
Like you're a bad person. There's one thing to be a bad owner and be cheap, but you're a bad guy. Like we don't want to support a bad guy. We're not going with you.
Yeah.
John Fisher, make it up to the fans at least. Like you don't even have to sign one more free agent. Just make the ballpark fun and give them some lasting joy before you suck their team out of their city.
Yep.
You owe that. You owe that. But he's not going to do it. But he owes
of course not. No. John Fisher, man. He's up there towards the top of my least favorite owners in sports. But David Tepper taking the top spot right now on the power rankings. Oof. Is he not likable at all? All right. NL West. Dodgers. Embrace the villain role, man.
Yeah.
Look, you can talk about how bad it is for baseball, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. At the end of the day, we're all going to watch. And at the end of the day, or at least I hope you are, if you're listening to this podcast and then you don't watch the Dodgers, like that's interesting. But I still love you. There is something to be said about the team that everybody wants to see go down and the team that everybody feels like is unbeatable, right? We love an underdog story. Baseball is built for underdog stories. It creates them every single year. I think the Dodgers leaning into that villain role. When has Freddie Freeman ever been a villain? When has Mookie Betts ever been a villain? I think it's going to be fun to see, Shohei Ohtani. When has that guy been a villain? Like no one's going to boo them or hate them, but everybody's going to want to see them go down. And, I want to see them have swagger. I want to see them have cockiness. I want Walker to come on here again and say how they're going to beat up everybody. That's great. That's what we want. That's fun. That's fun. I grew up a Heat fan, right? Watching the big three, it was so fun to watch everybody else want to see LeBron, Wade, and Bosh go down. Like I felt like I was behind enemy lines when I'd go to games at other stadiums and whatever in other arenas, and people would just be like, "You spoiled shit," like whatever. Like it's funny. Like it's one of those things that just makes sports fun. So I'd like to see them embrace the villain role and let's have some fun next year.
Couldn't agree with you more. Everybody says, "Oh, now baseball's ruined. The Dodgers are going to win it all." Stop. Look at the NBA when it was LeBron versus those Warriors teams. Look at the NFL when it was the Patriots dynasty.
So I watched
MLB
my Heat
with the Yankees, right?
I watched my Heat lose to the Mavs, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't.
They're going to be hated. People are going to hate them, and it's going to make for incredible television. At the end of the day, this is a sport.
Yeah, it's fun.
This is fun, right?
It's fun.
This is
it's
fun.
It's
You
fun.
take it as seriously, and I appreciate everybody out there who does. Probably if you listen to the show, you take it really seriously. But in the back of your mind, just remind yourself, this
It's
is
fun.
bonus. This is entertainment. This is
It's fun.
sports. This is awesome. It is fun. Go ahead.
Padres, find value. We know that they're operating under financial constraints. I think Preller's a very smart baseball mind. Ha-Seong Kim signing. That's a perfect example of finding value, right? A good signing. That's part of the reason why they don't have to tear it down was like the good value signing of Ha-Seong Kim. I want to see more of that. I want to see, what you do. Like Yuki Matsui, I actually think that was a interesting potential value add because you go long term, but it's 5 million and change AAV. Like I like those kind of moves. Keep trying to find value as you try to fill out this roster. And I think this team can compete if they can continue to find some value here and there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like.
Love it. Nothing to add.
Giants, land a big fish. I know you have your reservations, but that's what they got to do. That's the only thing that's missing for me. I know that I've been hard on them for the drafting, development, whatever, but the farm system's fine. They've drafted fine enough. Like I don't think that they need to overhaul everything. They just need to land some studs, and put to bed this narrative that no one wants to play in San Francisco and blah blah blah. Like you just land a stud, show that you're committed to doing so, and I think the rest will start to kind of progress from there.
Absolutely. I have my reservations, but I've
I
spoken
know.
about it before. Don't need to keep piling on. Just I'll believe it when I see it.
Rockies, turn the page. Just turn the page. I don't need to see Charlie Blackmon anymore. I love him. Like I get it. Like you can have him do like his farewell tour, but when is that going to be in 5 years? Like how much longer do we need to see, an older Charlie Blackmon taking outfield reps, from a Hunter Goodman or even from a Nolan Jones at times this past year, but now mostly he got enough run. But that's another one of those where I just would like to see young guys go trade, some of those pieces. I don't need to see Brendan Rodgers up the middle. Like I hope when Tovar is ready, you bring him up and throw him out there. When you look at McMahon at third base, like trade him. What are you going to do with a 29-year-old, 30-year-old? You're attached to Chris Davis, but there's certain arms. I don't need to see these guys anymore. I want to see them lean into the youth and reset a little bit and just have some fun out there. They got a fun farm system coming up. They got some good players
They
that are going
really
to come
do.
up and make an impact. I don't need to see these same guys anymore. Brandon Rodgers specifically, I do not need to watch anymore. I don't want to see him. And McMahon, like, great, he's solid at third. He's fine. His contract's cheap by the new standards. Move him. What is a defensive minded third baseman at Coors Field doing for you? Like, I just don't get it. Just turn the page.
I like it. Turn the page.
That's it.
Build around Cal.
Yes, finally.
Finally. So that'll do it. A New Year's resolution for every MLB team. Let us know in the YouTube comments if you support or you hate our New Year's resolutions or what you would change about your current MLB team.